and we are live for episode 34 of Agencyphonics. I've got my very special guest here today, Reid, who's head of project management at Sagittarius agency. And I have got a bit of a funny story to tell today, because actually the reason you're here is I came across this, which is quite disheveled at the moment. What I describe it really as a bit of a white paper case study, a blog article really, that you'd written on changing your project management software in your agency Sagittarius, and I read it and I loved it. I loved the fact you talked about the whole journey. And what was also quite interesting at the time was that the people that a couple of my clients had actually just been looking at moving to forecast as well. And it was almost like the universe aligned, because not only had you agreed to come on the show, but then about 3 or 4 weeks later, the guys from Forecast contacted me and said they wanted to help us with Agencynomics and Agencyphonics and be a sponsor. And so since that's happened, since I reached out to you, they've now become a sponsor of the show as well. So that's a pure coincidence. But then yesterday I was on LinkedIn and I saw Sagittarius had done a case study, like a joint case or something with Wirehive, and Wirehive is the other sponsor of the show. So I feel like either I'm picking the best people working with agencies right now, or there's just a huge amount of serendipity that's brought you to us today. And I'm just very quickly you've frozen on me, so I'm just a bit worried. 1 second.
Can you hear me?
Is it Joe's connection, do we think? So here we are in lockdown, still doing these things live, streaming them live. Caitlin? Me too. Okay. Here we go, you're back again.
Yeah.
Okay. Something happened then with your screen pausing, but maybe I'll just persevere, shall I? And we'll just, I'm going to open chat up. So I'm going to keep talking through and just hope that everything is working, albeit there's a bit of a problem streaming. And Caitlin, just put any messages in chat if there's any problems, okay? So sorry, so hopefully, yeah, everyone got that. There's this crazy amount of serendipity that brought us together today.
Yeah, it's meant to be.
It is meant to be. And so I have to always start these shows, Joe, by just thanking Forecast, Wirehive, and also Caitlin for producing it. Obviously, thank you for giving up your time today. And just basically thank you to all the listeners out there at the moment. We've been getting loads of more subscribers, and I really appreciate if you are listening today and you haven't subscribed, could you please do so for us, as it really helps us keep the momentum going. So I've got lots of questions to ask you. Pete and I, as I said, have been waiting for quite a while to try and get someone to talk to us about project management. So I'm actually really, really excited that you're here. I guess, where do I start? I'm going to ask some questions. The first one would be, what can you sort of describe to me the role of a project manager in an agency?
Yeah, sure. So the role of a project manager is to manage, to facilitate, and to oversee the delivery of a project from start to end. That is the main role of the project manager.
And the reason why I ask that question is it might seem like quite an obvious thing to most people out there who've got more technical agencies. Mm-hmm. But most sort of more traditional agencies or most marketing agencies, they don't tend to have project managers. They have what I call account manager project managers. So what's the difference between an account manager and a project manager? Can you tell me that?
Yeah, sure. So the account manager is the one that really focuses on improving and working very closely with the client to improve their platform with them on a roadmap point of view. So we're looking at working with our clients on what we can improve on and we can achieve within the 12-month period. So we work very closely with our clients on both roles. client services, or what we call account managers, are more revenue focused, whereas project managers are more focused on the delivery part of the work that gets approved by our clients.
Brilliant.
So that's really things that separate.
That's a really nice way to describe it. I think the really important thing here is in the old agency world, there always used to be this kind of line of client service director, account manager, account exec, and everyone in that order would do both jobs. They would deal with the clients and do the work. But in a more progressive agency world that we're in now, I think everyone's started to recognize that really project managers are much highly detailed people. Often, I'm not saying that account client service people aren't organized, but even more detailed and diligent and much more inward looking, and therefore they should be more focusing on those things rather than the external, perhaps looking account managers who are looking more on the client's business and the relationship side.
Exactly, yeah. So project managers, they're really focusing with their team to motivate them to deliver, and we understand the deliverables that the client's after, and we're there to manage their budgets and manage what we can achieve with them within that time frame. So really focusing on the delivery part of that.
What else do you do? So I guess that when it comes to the processes in the business, does that also come under your jurisdiction?
Yeah, so from a delivery front, yes, I work with the other heads of. So we've got heads of engineering, heads of client services. So we work together as a team, and as an account management and project management pairing, they work extremely closely with one another, because you can't really just have a project manager without an account manager. So the processes in terms of the delivery from start to end is something that I will oversee with my team.
Yeah, amazing. And then also the scheduling side of it, that comes down to you and your colleagues, I guess. Do you have one person who owns a schedule, or do you own it, or do you all own it jointly and kind of fight for resource?
So as a project management team, we work extremely closely with one another and we share resources. I work with the heads of team to oversee the resources. So when we're scheduling, we're looking really 3 months in advance, a minimum. We want a forward plan. We want to make sure the resources are there when we need it. So from a day-to-day level, where we've got project managers working on their projects, we want to make sure we've got the right people when they need them.
Yeah.
So it is a team effort all.
And I love that you're now at the stage as an agency where you are booking ahead 3 months. I think I remember the early days when that wasn't the case. We were sort of like being almost scheduling week to week. But then as you actually got bigger and you had a lot more business coming in, it was much easier to forward plan. And also I think at the moment a lot of agencies I'm going into there seems to be a very big bounce back at the moment for a lot of agencies. So they suddenly got their workloads. It's been that V-shaped recovery that everyone talks about. So all of their schedules are booked up till, well, a lot of them are booked up now till January as well. And it's better for you when that happens, right? Because you're able to plan forward better. And what happens when the client suddenly, say, pause the work for whatever reason, and then you've got to try and bring other stuff forward. And so a lot of your job is moving around and filling the work to the people all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so filling in the gaps, especially. I mean, the great thing is if a project pauses, we can pull something forward for a client. So where the expectation is I'm going to deliver on this day, actually we're able to do that, and we will do that.
The one last thing actually on client services and project managers is I always used to describe it to people as the account manager says yes to everything and the project manager says no to everything. Does that make sense to you?
That does make a lot of sense to me. Yes, yeah.
The account manager is always trying to sell, get revenue in, try and wedge it in, and your main priority is to deliver things on time, right?
Yeah, so we're the realists in this pairing, but yeah, and normally we're the bad cop in that situation. But
yeah, and how is it when you say no to a client? Because I think project managers do have a real art to be able to say no, but. Yes. Almost, rather than just no.
Yeah, and there is definitely an art to it. I mean, one of the key things is you have to, as a project manager, have that relationship with the client first and foremost. So it's easier to say no, and we don't say no. We give our clients options. So if we're unable to do that to what they're expecting, maybe we can do something that is an MVP version, or we could do a slightly different option for them. So we're not saying no. We're saying we could do something for you within the time restraints that we've got.
Okay, brilliant. So, for example, if it was a change that they wanted that was less time, that wouldn't really maybe be a problem. But if it was a change that required more time, that might need some sort of change, something a bit more creative to be done, or just something, a resetting of expectations on certain features or something that you push back as a result. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And we show clients the value that it brings, because eventually it is the client's decision as to whether or not they can give us that time, or we do another option for them. So we're really driven by what the client wants on that front.
So you guys always, because you got multiple offices, you've always had to work with multiple. So maybe COVID hasn't had such a big impact on your team, but how? I mean, obviously there's been a lot of talk about people struggling to work at home as much, and there may be some people in your team that were in offices that aren't now. Have you found? How have you found, being a project manager and managing everyone now being remote? No one's in an office together. Has it been okay for you? And more importantly, is there any sort of changes you've made to the processes that you do to check in with people?
Yes. So as you said, all of us have been remote working within the teams because we've got other offices in different locations. But one of the things that we have done within the COVID period is our HR department's amazing. They do checks with the team, so we make sure that they're okay. As line managers, we get in touch with our team members more often, so via Slack or over the phone. So we're doing those regular check-ins. On a team level, our project managers, they have daily stand-ups with the team. We use Slack to do instant messaging, and we're always in touch with our team members. So as long as they're communicating, then we know that each individual is okay and able to deliver what we're expecting them to deliver.
Amazing. And also want to talk to you about third parties, because in all the agencies that I work with, and I guess moving forwards even more so, a lot of people now talking more about working with contractors and freelancers. Mm-hmm. And I guess one of the advantages, if you've got project management in your agency, is that you guys can manage those external resources almost like you're managing your own team. So it's also an advantage, because a lot of agencies do get contractors and freelancers, and sometimes they're not really managed properly and they just clock up really big bills because they're not, the work's not allocated. But again, you would look after that in the business, right?
Yes. So as when my team put in their resource requirements, as a head of department, we oversee what contractors we would potentially need. Mm-hmm. And the head of that department would manage them as if they were part of their team. So they would do those check-ins and so forth. But we want to make sure that they do have enough work to deliver within the time that we have contracted them in for. So again, the tool is really key for us to understand that. And as we plan 3 months in advance, we would know what that looks like before we need to get to that point. Ideally, we want to keep everything in-house with our team. So that is something that we would do as a second resort.
Yeah. And what happens when you look maybe 3 or 4 months ahead, and then you're selling, let's say you're selling loads of development time, but then the creative time is not sold? I guess that you have to flag that kind of forward, making sure the sales team and the client service team know, that you've got resource available.
That's correct. Yes. So we do sync with the new business team and the sales team each week, and I present the utilization figures to the rest of the team. So we all know on a weekly basis what we should be doing. If, however, there might be some downtime because we're waiting for something to turn around, there's a lot of innovation projects that we do internally as a team. So what we can improve on, or what products we can build on. There may be some systems we might want to look into to improve efficiencies and so forth. So that's stuff that we do have as a second option that we can go to.
And are you guys working like 100% agile now, or do you do a bit of waterfall and a bit of agile, or a bit of agile as some people call it? Where are you guys in your business?
So we're a mixture at the moment. So we do have pure waterfall projects, but within the development cycles, we do apply agile. So a mixture of those two approaches, so we can give our clients the iterative deployments that we want to achieve, and they can be on board with what we're delivering. And where we've got those accounts or projects that we can work pure agile scrum, we can do that as well. So it really down to how it's been sold, and as well as the infrastructure from the client's point of view, because we've got to work with the client, and they may have some infrastructure limitations for us to apply pure scrum agile.
Yeah, I'm just interested to know, do you have a preference on either?
I actually like both. I don't have a preference. I think there is room to do both very, very well within the agency. So.
Yeah. And did you do any kind of training on project management, just out of interest? Did you do Prince 2 or anything like that?
No. So I did a diploma in project management, which something that I did when I actually got into agency work. Everything that I've learned is through experience within the roles that I've had.
Yeah, great. And so I guess I was just almost checking in the relevancy these days of that qualification, because it used to be a really big thing. But it's interesting you did a diploma. So I think that's also just very fascinating to know that there are other, and I guess there's so much online training now around project management as well available. So have you ever had to project manage something that isn't a technical design and build? Like Sagittarius used to do marketing back in the day, so I don't know whether you guys still do that anymore now. But have you ever had to project manage non-development work?
Yes, so we have a EXO department, and that looks after all of the CRO, the SEO, PPC. Okay. So I do actually manage currently some SEO retainers and PPC retainers. Amazing. It is a very small scale compared to design and build. So we do all.
So that this is music to my ears, by the way, because I spend my life going into SEO businesses trying to convince them that having an account manager SEO person without having someone project managing is like a really bad idea. But it's been very much like PR business, very much built on that old model, and SEO and a lot of digital marketing comes from the old advertising model. But do you think you have a big impact where you are, project managing the marketing roles that you talked about?
So from a pure retainer perspective, I don't think from a project management role that I have a big impact. The biggest impact that I have within the development cycle is really the discovery phase that we do with our clients. So when we pitch to a new client, when we are looking at a rebuild or a refresh, we always do the discovery piece first. And that's really tying all the skill sets together, because we need to onboard old tech from a client, or the client wants to use Cycle because we specialize in Cycle. They want to use Cycle to its capacity or to what that tool actually allows you to do. We need to understand and tie in all those different roles to make sure that our strategy and our baseline is when we move into development and UX and design.
Yeah, but you still have to keep an eye on the marketing side of things, on the SEO and the CRO guys where their time's being spent versus clients, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay. And so even if they were underserving or overserving, you'd have to red flag that, because either is important, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So I think that's really good. And I get it. I think probably you're right. It's probably not as heavy a touch to do that work as it is maybe to do more development and design and other areas. But nevertheless, I still think it's interesting, because I think there's definitely a shortage of project managers out there, I feel, that work in that digital marketing area. And I think it's a really growth area for anyone looking to get into project management at the moment. I think I think it would really, really help that part of the industry. So what do I want to talk to you about next? Well, I want to talk to you about the what I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it this challenge that you had in the business, because you obviously, I don't know, what were you using software before? Was it in-house software? Were you using things that you developed? Was it stuff that Nick Towers had developed back about 10 years ago?
No, thankfully
You got
not.
rid of all that rubbish, so that's good.
A little bit of it, but yeah, we were using Jira add-ons. So currently, we still use Jira, but as part of that, we had add-ons to our cloud-based system, which was Tempo, Hawk Budget, and outside of that, we had Smartsheets.
Right. So you were kind of pulling in a few sort of different products sort of together. Okay.
But none of them really overlapped, unless you would run separate spreadsheets with pivot tables and so forth.
Right.
So it was very separate, the system. So that's what we started with.
And what was the challenge that really the business was suffering from? What was the thing that kind of kept coming up?
Yeah, so the challenge that flagged this to me really was my team. So my team would come to me each week and they'd give me an update on how the projects were performing and so forth. And they always flagged to me consistently, every single one of them flagged they weren't sure about the budgeting system. They didn't trust the budgets, because when they did it manually, it didn't match. And that really was something that I thought that can't happen. We have a tool for a reason, and if that tool doesn't work, or it's not working right for us, we do need to change that. We can't keep doing the same thing and expect different results. So yeah. We then investigated on what tool could resolve that budgeting challenge that we had, so managing the budgets on a project level. And then that kind of stemmed into other tools that we currently use. If we could get rid of them, what would we want to have the new system do? And that was the baseline for us.
Were you losing, do you think, a lot of time in a way and efficiency by trying to get the old multiple systems trying to work? And then it not only was it inaccurate, but it sounds like there was a lot of extra time being spent to get the access to the data and presenting it the way you wanted.
Absolutely, yeah. So it would take not only a lot of manual effort, also it would become out of date, because once you take a snapshot of something, it becomes out of date already within seconds, because other people are working on that project. So you're always trying to chase your tail really around it. So it was really, really key for us to try and improve that.
Brilliant. So the next step is always a challenge in businesses, is when you're going to change anything in an agency, especially, is you've then got to get the right buy-in from everybody. So because especially if you're going to change, a tool that a lot of people in the business are going to use. Mm-hmm. So what was your approach to the next step of trying to find a product to do this?
Yeah,
and everyone to buy in as well.
Yeah, so the key thing for me was my team had to obviously buy into this, because they're the ones that are going to have to use it every single day. So once the team bought into the idea that we needed to change our system, the next step was to talk to the stakeholders, so the chiefs of the business and the owners. Okay, this is what we want to this is what we want to do. We want to look at a system. So what is really the key things that you want your new system to have? And fortunately, I've worked with Sagittarius for quite a while now, so I know the types of reporting that we use and we want to see in the future, but also things in our old system that we had to manually adapt to. So I basically took all of that together, put it into a spreadsheet and mapped out, okay, what is the must-haves? What is the nice to haves? So the stuff that we want to have eventually, but we can live without it.
Yeah.
And what is the dream? So what does that
You must code it basically.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. So and was that timely for you? Because obviously, you've got a busy studio with 3 months bookings ahead, and then you've got to try and be proactive and come up with something. Was it difficult, or not, or was it just something you just project managed yourself to do?
Well, I think I did have some help. So I did have one of my project managers. She had some spare capacity, so she did a lot of the groundwork for me.
Amazing.
Which was great. I think with time, if it's something that helps the team move forward and improve the business as well as the team efficiency, then you make time for it. Doesn't matter if you're busy or not, you make time for it. So each week we made time to catch up, to do some demos and things like that. So we really isolated a lot of the research.
Just for example, how many products did you have to look at in this process?
Yeah. So
what was the long list like? Because there's quite a few players in the market. So
based on the criteria, there was about a handful of products. I only demoed about the top 3 products, and that was the ones that I then narrowed down to the one product that was going to.
And aren't the salespeople in all these companies like really good? Like they come in and I always find whenever you buy software that they're all really good salespeople and they make everything look amazing. But in a way, you have to almost test it yourself, don't you, to make sure that it does what you can't just listen to the sales team. You've got to actually. What was that process for you like? Did you have to set up like a mini testing environment for it, or?
Yeah, so what I did was with my team was to set up a demo site, so it's free of charge, set up the demo, and we just ran different scenarios. So we know the types of projects that we do, and we just ran that and linked it up to the Jira demo instance that we set up, and we just played around with it. It is really implementing what we would want to do with it, but in a small space of time when we're doing that demo. And we did get in touch with the salespeople, and they did go through that, but we actually did a lot of our groundwork before we did that.
Okay. Yeah. And did you get to speak to other agencies yourself, and other people that had used the product?
No, I didn't.
No. So that's probably one, and definitely another piece of advice I would say. Obviously, it doesn't matter. You found something and it's worked out, so it's all good. But I always used to say to people, try and find someone that's used it and didn't get on with it as well, and find out why. Because sometimes there's lessons in both sides as well. But so you obviously then came to the conclusion you were going to go with forecast, and I know that's obviously because I read the article. So tell me. How long did it take you from deciding you need to change your system to actually then appointing them? So
it took around 3 months.
So it's not too long then, really. That's a kind of a quarter, right? That's pretty realistic. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then you must have had to come up with some kind of migration plan.
Yeah.
And that sounds chaotic. So how was that?
So it was good. So in order to get buy-in for the stakeholders, obviously I put together a proposition around if we decommission these tools, what would the saving be? And as part of that decommissioning proposition, I put together a plan of how we could implement it. So really how we could take backups of the systems and so forth. So with my project management background, it was quite easy for me to plan all of that, but obviously get the buy-in from each team member, because I needed a lot of skill sets that were outside of my remit to support me. It was really, really helpful with forecast. as they had a developer that we were able to speak to, and they did quite a lot of the migration. But there was a lot of things that we needed to really assess. Do we want to migrate it, or do we want to leave it? Because there's a tendency to go into a tool and you want to migrate everything, but actually you only want to migrate perhaps the most things that are active or the stuff that you're planning. You don't need to migrate everything. So there was a real cutoff point where we were like, okay, these are the projects we want to migrate. These are the ones we want to focus on to tidy up once we launch this system. And then the rest of the data, we can all access it through the databases that we've taken snapshots of. So that was really key with our migration.
I've got to say, I love that pragmatism. I think that, I think too many people take a too complicated approach to these things, but just to agree a cut off, and start new projects on it and let the other ones run their course is a much better way than trying to migrate everything sometimes. Was there a lot of training needed? Obviously, is it quite intuitive? I mean, I've not actually used it, so I don't know, but is it a fairly intuitive platform, or did everyone need a lot of training really, regardless?
So it's very straightforward platform. We did, as part of our onboarding with Forecast, they actually provided a trainer for us. So we had a lot of sessions with them. Every week we had sessions training again on the different levels or the different teams that we wanted to do, but our training is really ongoing. I'm still training because we always obviously get new members in, we get people that are trialing different things. It is a continuous learning for us as well.
Okay. And did anyone reject it? Did anyone on the team say, no, I'm not using this? No, everyone's bought. Okay, well, that's got to be a good sign then. So you've got it in, you're 30 days in, what was kind of the I guess, what lessons would you share with people out there, good and bad, 30 days in? What are the things that maybe people would need to know if they're thinking about ever changing their system in the future?
So again, the key thing is around this cutoff point. So you need to bear in mind that when you look, so we were syncing into Jira. So these projects that we had in Jira were either set up for retainer work. So they might be 6 months in and we've got another 6 months left. So a lot of the 30 days was really assessing and tidying up what we were actually seeing, because we never had a system that tied in what the team were doing on a day-to-day basis with actual budgets and scope and so forth. So the key was to tidy up all the active projects, make sure that all the expenses that we had in our old system were migrated. And I would say it does take time. And as long as the business know that you've got, there was a cutoff date and there is some bedding in time, then the team can focus really on tidying up the projects that were in there.
You didn't have any second regret, any sort of regrets 30 days in going, what have I done?
No.
It was.
Well, Paul, the CEO, said this system is great, but he was very skeptical. And one of the key things is, if I was going in there doubting, my team would doubt and everybody would doubt. So no regrets with that one.
Good. That's good to hear. And so I have a story about Paul. I think he nearly killed me once. I don't know if you know this. Well, we many years ago, we used to do a ski trip at Cactus, and then we sort of merged it in with a Beamer ski trip, and we went skiing, and he snowboards, and he said, follow me. And I followed him off piste up the top of this mountain, and he fell over in front of me, and I didn't know where I was going. I was just following him. And so anyway, I ended up literally stopping in the middle of nowhere, worried what I should do, not knowing that there was a sheer drop the other side of where I was.
Wow.
Fortunately, some stranger out of nowhere came along and said, don't go that way, you will die. And if he hadn't have told me that, I probably would have died. So Paul nearly killed me, but he's a great snowboarder. It was a very good trip. So there's a slight digression then on story. So obviously, it's a forward the clock now. You've got the system in. It's been about 3 months in now. In your in the studio, imagine it's that sort of time. How is it then operating 3 months in? Is it now? It's taking you 3 months to find it. I guess you're 6 months really since you started looking. What was the was it pretty much working, 100% at that point?
I would say it was working probably around 85%.
Okay, that's good. No.
It again, you still need to tidy up because obviously you've got people working in, and this is because we've sunk into Jira as well. So we've got people working in the Jira system. We're also understanding how that pulls in, and we are adapting our process or our setup of how we're setting up our boards, perhaps how we're setting up swim lanes in Jira and so forth. So we're still learning on adapting.
Yeah. But that's really good to know it's about 85%, because I think the setting expectations is really important, isn't it? You know that as a project manager, it's like you've got to set the expectations realistic, otherwise everyone in the business. So where you did the team didn't think it was going to be a silver bullet and everything was going to go in and work overnight. But I think everyone listening should know that if you ever do change your system, a quarter in, you're still not going to be quite there, are you? But I like that. Well, I'll question around that point you said about the business processes. Do you think you had to change your processes to match the software or not? I mean, because that's obviously sometimes the challenge with software is you've got to work the way that works, not maybe how the business is. But in some cases, the business processes might be improved by moving it. What's your experience around that?
So I would say that the processes in place need to be a baseline. So you're not, checklisting single thing that we need to do. It is very much a baseline, and we build on it. We adapt, we adjust, and so forth. So when we sunk into forecast and obviously picked up forecast, there were things that we were doing that was right, and it was, it fit perfectly. Now, the other things that we did, we would adapt to. So processes change, they adapt. So we just adjusted to how the tool was proposing certain things. So when we're doing project plans, for example, we adapted to a few features that were in there. But we work very closely with the forecast team. So if there's things that are nice to have, we're proposing why that's nice to have, because we're learning the tool as well as refining our process as we go.
You don't always need everything. You don't always need every feature, right? You just need the ones that are going to hopefully efficiently, record and allocate and give you an overview of where the studio is at any given time, but also be able to retrospectively measure the profitability of the team. I did one of the earliest vodcast shows that we did, Joe. Was with Suzanne Linton from Freestyle, and she, as an agency, they don't do any timesheeting at all.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and they're really profitable and they deliver really effectively, but they've just taken forecasts on apparently. So how's that going to be with no timesheeting, I wonder?
That's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Well, we'll have to see, but they'll find a way because their culture is no timesheets. So, but if they do make it work, it could be quite interesting. So reflecting, how long ago now was it that you first put it in? Was it about 6 months ago, or was it sooner than that?
So we launched in April, yes.
Yeah. In April. So you're about, what's that, about 9 months in or so. So is it now sort of 95%, 100% there, but as you said, you're just continually reviewing moving forwards?
Yeah, so I would say it's roughly 95% there. We are adapting a few things. There are, with our Jira integrations, we want to move to next gen projects, and I know at the moment they are finessing that when we're syncing in. So there are things that they are working on in their roadmap, which they share with us, and we're trying to obviously maneuver around that as well. So it's great that we have that real relationship with them, which if we went on another software, I don't feel that would have been the case. We are nearly there. There are things that we want to adjust and change, or there's products that we perhaps want to propose to their development team. But all in all, I think it's there. It's ticked a lot of boxes.
And so the team are happy, you're happy. Are you getting the original reports that you were struggling to get out? That's the benchmark. You're getting those reports.
Definitely, yes. So one of the key things really was utilization. That's one of the key things, and being able to have that bird's eye view within the system, going down from months to weeks to days, is really key, because no matter where you're in the business, they might want to see days, or they might want to see months, or even years, and the system allows that flexibility.
Amazing.
And it also shows as well a bird's eye view of all the project plans and how they slot in as well, which we never had, because all of our project plan systems were outside. They weren't syncing with the likes of Jira and so forth. So our clients are able to see real-time progress based on the stuff that's happening in Jira and time entries and so forth.
Yeah, so I'm going to ask you a question here, and you may not know the answer, but you might do. But do you know if you guys revenue recognize do you know if you to use the term revenue recognition? So is your daily number in the studio of the work you do, is that based on the time that's actually spent working on the projects in the business, or is it based on the invoices? No, don't worry. Let's leave it. So, but the question, the point I'm trying to make is, if I said to you, like last Friday, how much did this? What was the efficiency of the studio? You can drill down to just one day, so you know what the business builds in one day. Is that right?
So I know the billable logs for the studio, and I can go day, range, months, and so forth.
Okay.
And that is then tied in with, at the moment, we're not tying it in with a invoicing system yet, but we're working on that.
Okay.
Our next step in this phase of the product delivery that we're doing is, we've got forecast, and obviously we want to sync in with Xero, so we can.
Okay. Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah. And then eventually I want to look at syncing that in with the new business tool that we use. So depending on what that is, it might be Salesforce, it might be something else. That will give that view.
Amazing. Okay, great. As I think that's a really important thing about project management, especially when you get larger as an agency, is, as you all know, if you miss a day, you can miss a week. You miss a week, you can miss, and actually the day cost is quite expensive, I'm sure, in your business now with this team size you've got, right? So, any team days out has a massive impact on your on the billability of the business. So that sounds like a really good tool to be able to do that, because I think a lot of businesses do struggle to get down to that kind of micro focus. I've experienced a lot of people can do it at a week view, but it's hard to get down sometimes to days. To also spot if there's any trends where maybe you're becoming more inefficient because there's some other distractions. So there's one last thing that I want. So that's a wonderful. Thank you for sharing that with us. I think it's really good to have someone so recently that's made a migration. And it's been successful. That's always good to hear that. But to be realistic about it and say, look, it's not just gone in a week and it's all worked. It's a journey. It's being sort of pragmatic about it. But the thing that I wanted to ask you about, which was just popped into my head, now popped out again, which isn't very clever, is about what was it? It was something. Oh no, I can't do this now. What is it? It was around project managing. Oh, I know what it was. Internal time. This is something that comes up a lot. So internally, the agency wants to redo a website, and they say, well, we never get it done because the client work always comes first. Or I don't know, maybe there's any, a piece of an application you want to build, or a tool or something to make the. So how does your agency approach that situation?
Yeah, so when we look at utilization figures, we obviously try and sell the gaps that we see, or pull projects forward. Sometimes that may not be the case. The clients may not be ready for us to pull it forward. So there may be these gaps within the studio that we want to utilize. So within that instance, that's when we will have time to do those innovation projects. And within the system, within forecast, they are classed as non-project work. So we can actually see what is billable client work versus non-project work that isn't billed for, and therefore we can assess what that looks like across the studio quite easily.
Okay, so basically, anything that's done internally would go to you, and you would project manage it with the spare time in the schedule, and you would prioritize it. Though, would you treat it like it had a budget, and you would, or would the client work still override it? I'm just curious to know.
Yeah, so if we've got an internal project that comes through, definitely something that will come to the PMO team, and we will map in with the head of that particular skill set where they want to slot it in, and if there's adjustments that we can do within the studio, then we will. If there isn't, then we will adjust what we need to do within a duration of time, because if it's an internal work, there doesn't necessarily have a tight deadline to it, unlike our clients, so we can be more flexible around that, and we work together on that as a team. We don't, I mean, historically we used to add these internal projects as projects within Jira, and we will do that, and it will just be a non-billable project. If it's to do with training, things like that, we'll utilize the non-project option within forecast. So it depends on how big or how meaty this project is. If it's training or if it's actual innovation projects that have a product or an output, then we'll adjust the way we map that into the system.
Yeah, because I guess the other thing as well that gets quite interesting is that if, let's say, these days, you can develop a website on a simple website. Let's say it wasn't you're obviously building slightly more enterprise complex sites, but let's say your own website didn't need to be that complicated, and the day rates to do that were less than your agency's day rates. It might be smarter in some cases to even outsource that work, right? Because it'd be more cost effective than using premium developers to deliver simple tasks. Yeah, so I think the key thing there was, though, just to sort of let everybody know that if they haven't got project managers in their business, that really your role is the one that can help manage those internal projects and make sure that they don't lose control. I know that when we switched it over, because we used to, my marketing manager in my business, she used to try and manage the projects in the studio, but as soon as they gave it to, it never happened, because they, the project managers overall, as soon as they took over it, everything got delivered really effectively, which was really great to see. So that's been amazing. We've covered a lot. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. It's a part of the business, as I said, project management and studio management and delivery, that that we don't talk about enough, probably, and it's really good that you've given up your time to do that today. I mean, is there I guess the only last thing I just wanted to just cover off with you, if I can, is when it comes to actually what I found with my own team with project managers is, as I got bigger, the project managers almost were really helpful with the recruitment process, because they knew how the developers needed to work in certain situations. Like, I'm sure you know that with your team, certain people work in a certain way. Certain people can solve the problem. Certain people need more time to solve problems, or some people are better working on certain types of work than others. Just out of interest, do you ever get involved with helping to recruit based on how they are, or do you stay well away from that?
No, I still stay well away from that. But we do understand each person on our pod system, how they operate. So as part of the team management, which is a real key thing to project management, is managing the team. So we know, okay, they may not have experience with this, we might need to add a little bit of time here, or we need to support them a little bit more with running them through requirements and so forth. So as part of the project management role, again, to manage and facilitate, we do understand and we do invest that time to understand our team members, so that we can help support them to deliver what they need to do on that.
Yeah, because if they get stuck, I had it once. I was in an agency once, Joe, and they had to do an import of some data.
Oh, right.
And they had 4 weeks to do it, and the project manager had allocated the work to the engineer to do it, to the programmer to do it, and 5 weeks in still hadn't figured out how to do it. and we were sort of arguing that at the time that the project manager should really have been checking in more often, because finding out 5 weeks later on a 4-week project that it's not been done. And then they found out it was only like 100 fields of data, and someone could have typed it in 6 hours. But the coder was struggling to figure out how to import it, and it should have just been typed in manually, you know. Yeah. So actually, I think sometimes there's a side to you guys where you just have to almost just check, because sometimes people, especially engineers, they don't like to admit defeat on problems sometimes, you know.
And they are really focused on just that task, and they may, you know, we challenge them to think outside the box. We're like, okay, you know, let's discuss it as a team. If there is a different approach or a different option around what you're doing, I mean, in that scenario, for example, absolutely, that person should have been able to pick up within the first couple of days. I would say 3 days. Are they on track? You know, and that's one of the key things in our role is we have to make sure we've got a duration. We have to have checkpoints in there. If we know that there's a risk already up front because the person that we're working on may not have that experience, that's something we will identify at the start and we'll manage it through so that we can hit that deadline, and we will be there to make sure that we are constantly checking in those checkpoints that we are going to get to that goal, rather than being at that goal and then having to disappoint our clients.
How often do you check in with your team members, just out of interest? Is there like a frequency?
Yeah, so we do so on a day-to-day level, on a project level, we do it on a stand-up each morning.
Okay.
For my team, I check up with them on their portfolio of projects that they've got each week, and they report to me on how the project's going, and we review forecasted budgets and so forth. So they're into that rhythm of checking in. And if we're doing it on a client level, we have a catch up with our clients every week on project status. And we also have a quarterly meeting on the account and that's done by the account management team. And we do yearly reviews as well. So we're quite on the ball with that.
Well, that sounds amazing. And I thank you for sharing that. And I think that's so you've given some really good insights. Clearly, Sagittarius have really got, you know, you've got your project management and your account management and your delivery nailed, and now you have a platform to top it all off. So I've been really impressed with what I've heard. Thank you again for sharing everything and giving up your time today. And so no worries. Honestly, it's been a pleasure. It's been really good to talk about a subject I don't get to talk about as much as I'd like to. Hopefully everyone listening's found that useful today. For me, just understanding the differences between project management and account management, understanding around, you know, the process of actually implementing a new tool in the business, the pragmatism around not necessarily trying to import all the data from the past, coming up with a sensible plan that you know, that has a sensible amount of time disruption, and more importantly, just really that whole kind of, also I still love that account manager saying yes and the project manager saying no, but you know, but it's not no, it's a no, but let's look at what you need here and let's come up with a plan that we can deliver this within the time frame we've already got allocated, or the scope we've got allocated. So thank you so much, and thanks everyone for joining us.
Pleasure. Thank you so much.
Don't forget to like and subscribe, everybody. I'm sounding like one of those proper YouTubers now, and that's a wrap.